Welcome to Mastering Life's Adventures, an educational podcast about tapping into your true self, the soul, your soul, the substance of your life, to discover what life's ups and downs are really about, and how to have a greater sense of purpose, peace, joy, and fulfillment. I am Dr. Judith Holder, your host, coach, psychologist, fellow seeker who enjoys diving into the connections between spirituality, psychology, wellness, and your everyday life's adventures. All preparing and polishing you like the facets of a magnificent diamond to be your best self. If you're craving more from your life, you are in the right place. Come, let's journey together and transforming what you know into who you really are. Mastering Life's Adventures begins now.
Here's the distinction that can change how you understand your hesitation. And this is understanding the distinction between your personality and your soul. Some believe that it's the same. Some believe it's different. Some believe there's no such thing as a soul. But there is a distinction between your personality and your soul. However, they are not enemies. Your personality is the human instrument through which you move through earthly life. It includes your temperament, habits, emotional patterns, coping strategies, roles, and learned identity. It helps you organize life, anticipate danger, and maintain continuity. Your personality is not bad. It has its important role. The problem begins when the personality believes its primary job is to prevent all discomfort, preserve every familiar role, and maintain everyone's approval, to the point of doing comparisons between what you're doing and what someone else is doing. At that point, the personality can become dominated by the ego mind, which I call the ego persona. The ego mind or ego persona says, if I can control enough, prepare enough, please enough, or prove enough, I will be safe. The soul has a different assignment. Let me go back, because those assumptions being made by the personality locks the personality into a rigid way of living. And that's not what God ever intended us to live our life by, rigidity. What it has wanted us to be able to do is to live through the soul, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And the soul is the substance of your life. And the soul has a different assignment. It is not primarily concerned with preserving the version of you that feels more familiar. It is concerned with growth in consciousness. The adventures of your life, the relationships, the loss, the opportunity, the disappointment, the responsibility, the transition, become a curriculum for understanding trust, courage, compassion, discernment, humility, forgiveness, and truth, and the virtues that want you to be, for those walking a spiritual path, more Christ-like in your interactions. Hi, I'm back with another episode of Mastering Life's Adventures. And today, we are looking at the distinction and the utility of both the personality and the soul, which becomes an important ingredient to why we want to continue to evolve, grow, and advance in our life through the understanding of what the soul is here to learn and how the personality is supposed to be subservient to what the soul's lessons are. The personality asks, how can I keep everything stable? The soul asks, what is the experience inviting me to become more conscious of? The personality asks, how can I avoid being misunderstood? The soul asks, how can I remain loving without abandoning what is true? The personality is, how can I be certain I will not fail? The soul asks, what qualities is being developed through my willingness to take one faithful step? This leads to a surprising possibility that many women in their midlife may not have considered. Your hesitation may not be proof that your soul is confused. It may be evidence that your personality is still organizing around an identity your soul has already begun to outgrow. At midlife, the role that shaped you may still exist, but they no longer explain all of who you are. The soul may not be asking you to leave these roles. It may be asking you to stop allowing them to define the full boundaries of who you are in your life. The personality often experiences that shift as danger, anything new or different. This personality circles the wagon and puts up the danger signal because it asks, who will I be if I'm no longer needed in the same way? Who will I be if I stop proving, pleasing, caring, and remaining quiet? The soul experiences the same shift as an invitation for greater wholeness, greater awareness of how these experiences relate to my spiritual growth, my advancement, my movement from understanding the soul at a singular level to understanding my soul is connected to something greater. It is connected to the Christ self. It is connected to the I am presence. It is connected to the Atman, the Creator, the Lord. Whatever word you want to use, there is a connection, a spiritual connection that the soul, the substance of your life, is so vitally important. Now let's take Ava. She's 38, and the quiet invitation she has been sensing is no longer new. She has already admitted that coaching, journaling, and spiritual study matter to her. She has attended an informational session and begun writing regularly, and the invitation has moved from a vague longing to something more specific. And we've talked about her before. So she's now on this quest of understanding herself and looking at herself through writing. She may be having some coaching to help her see herself from different vantage points. Now she's considering an introductory training course in writing. This is where her personality becomes active. It begins producing questions. Where will I find the time? What if you start and cannot finish? What if this is only a temporary interest? What will people think if you tell them you are exploring a new direction? Those questions are not foolish. Ava does need to consider cost, time, and responsibility. But she notices that each time she answers one practical question, her mind produces another requirement. First, she needs more information. Then she needs a quieter mind. Then she needs to feel more disciplined. Then she needs to be certain this could become something meaningful. And Ava realizes that preparation has slowly become a hiding place. So she changes the conversation with herself. And instead of asking, can I guarantee that this course will lead somewhere? She asks, will taking this course help me become more honest about what I am being called to explore? That question creates movement. Ava looks at her calendar, creates a realistic plan, and registers. Her yes is not a promise to become a writer or a rejection of her present life. It is a willingness to let experience teach her what thinking alone cannot reveal. This is how the personality can become a partner in soul growth. Ava does not silence the personality. She uses its practical strengths to plan, budget, and create structure. But she no longer allows its desire for certainty to veto her soul's invitation. The personality becomes the vehicle. The soul becomes the navigator. This distinction becomes even deeper when we consider the Christ within. Sometimes called the higher self or the I am presence. The Christ within is not the personality trying to appear spiritual. It is the divine consciousness within us that remains connected to God, our Creator. It remembers our spiritual identity even when the personality feels afraid and uncertain. The I am present does not erase your humanity. It works through it. It does not ask you to become motionless or perfectly certain. It brings a higher quality of awareness into the emotions, decisions, and relationships of ordinary life. The personality says, I'm afraid. The Christ within does not shame the fear. It responds. Let us listen to what the fear is trying to protect, and then decide from truth rather than fear alone. The personality says, I do not know the whole path. The I am presence responds, you have enough light for the next step. However, the personality says, what if I make a mistake? The Christ within responds, you are not beyond guidance, connection, or grace. Many women try to become spiritual by rejecting parts of their personality. But spiritual growth is not the destruction of the personality. It is the gradual alignment of the personality with the soul and the Christ within. It is, as I said earlier, the personality, the ego persona, is under the auspices of the soul, the Christ, the I am presence. It is the vehicle, but somehow we get confused. And many women try to become spiritual by rejecting parts of their personality. Spiritual growth is not the destruction of the personality. It is the gradual alignment of the personality with the soul and the Christ within. The goal is not for the human self to disappear. The goal is for the human self to become a clear instrument for divine love, divine wisdom, and right action. God, our Creator, does not force this alignment. Divine direction invites cooperation. Free will allows us to respond, delay, resist, revise, eventually choose again. That is why your yes matters. Your yes does not give God permission to exist in your life. God is already present. Your yes gives your personality permission to cooperate with the divine movement already occurring within you. A sacred teaching story that I would like to share with you gives us a powerful image. The people of Israel reached the Jordan River, and the priests carried the ark with instructions to move forward. The water did not part while they remained safely on dry ground, waiting for proof. It began to move when their feet entered the river. The path did not fully appear before the step. The step became part of how the path appeared. This is not an invitation to act recklessly or to call every impulse faith. Applied spirituality still includes discernment, responsibility, timing, and practical preparation, and asking your inner self for guidance, your I am presence, the Christ self, your Creator. But sometimes we have already prayed, reflected, and recognized the next responsible action, yet we continue standing on the shore. We want evidence without participation. We want confirmation without vulnerability. We want God to reveal what will happen while we remain protected from the experience that would help us discover what happens. Sometimes the next level of clarity is not available from the shore. You may need to make the appointment, attend the class, ask the question, begin the conversation, state the boundary, or admit that current approach is no longer working. Clarity may meet us in motion. This is one reason the Christ within often speaks in the language of the next right step, rather than the final outcome. The I am presence does not always give the personality enough information to control the journey. It gives enough light to participate faithfully in it. That can feel uncomfortable because the personality wants control, but the soul is cultivating trust, discernment, listening grace, obedience, self-awareness. It's cultivating these qualities and so much more. And let's look at the law of cycles. For that teaches that life moves through seasons. And I talk about this in the last episode about the law of cycles. There are seasons for building and releasing, caregiving and receiving, learning and teaching, grieving and beginning again. Every season asks something different from the soul. A response that was wise in one season may become limiting in another season. There may have been a time when keeping the peace protected your family. There may have been a season when working long hours was necessary. There may have been a period when placing your plans aside was an expression of love. And there may have been a time when silence helped you survive. But what was once obedience can become avoidance when the season changes. We can remain loyal to an old instruction long after its purpose has been fulfilled. We can keep carrying a burden because we remember the season in which carrying it made you strong. And you may keep saying yes to an old role because it once gave your life meaning. Here is the midlife surprise. Sometimes the restlessness you are trying to eliminate is not a problem to solve. It may be a signal that your soul has completed one season and is preparing you for the next. That does not mean every feeling of boredom or discomfort is spiritual guidance, but persistent restlessness deserves curiosity, especially when it remains after you have rested, reflected, addressed practical stress. At midlife, God may not be asking you to become someone different. The Creator may be inviting you to express more of the person your soul has been developing through every adventure you have already lived. The season may not be asking you to abandon your life. It may be asking you to inhabit it with more truth, embody more of the Christ-like qualities, the virtues, to be more centered in what God is directing you by, instead of what the personality, the ego persona, wants to direct your life by. Maria is 63. I want to talk about her. And her story is no longer about whether she can move after loss. She has already learned that grief and possibility can occupy the same heart. Now, Maria faces a quieter invitation. And in her new season, people continue to see her as the wise, steady woman who has endured much and knows how to support others. She values that role, but she notices that she is beginning to hide inside of it. When difficult memories surface, Maria's instinct is to manage them privately. When she tells herself, I have already worked through this, I should be able to handle it. The personality wants to protect the identity of the strong, spiritually mature woman, but the soul is inviting something different. It is inviting Maria to receive. One evening after a situation awakens an old childhood wound, Maria notices the familiar urge to minimize what she feels. Instead of withdrawing, she calls someone she trusts and says, "Something old has been stirred in me, and I do not need you to fix it. I just do not want to carry it along." And that sentence becomes Maria's next yes. Her growth is not about proving that the past can never affect her again. Her growth is allowing the Christ within to express humility, truth, and receptivity through her personality, her ego persona. Maria begins to understand that healing does not mean an old wound never speaks. Healing means the wound no longer has to speak alone or control the direction of her life. She can call a friend. She can call upon the Christ within her. She can call upon the Lord to guide, direct her, and help her have mastery over this particular childhood wound that is coming up. And then we don't realize that we have people and books and other types of episodes and other individuals or situations that appear before us to help us, to guide us, to direct us, to help us to heal. We have practitioners through mental health practitioners or through healthcare practitioners to help us have a greater understanding about ourselves. So, talking about Maria, think about this. Maria begins to understand that healing does not mean that she has to go past the old wound, past it in some ways, as I mentioned to you. Healing means that the wound no longer has to speak in a silo manner or sense that I can't share this with anyone else. And it moves her out of the personality level awareness into her soul awareness. So earlier, courage meant entering a new physical season. Now it means letting herself be seen without the armor of always being the wise one. The soul continues to grow through new layers of the same life adventure. This is the law of cycles at work. We may visit a theme, but we are not repeating it. We meet it from a higher level of awareness. It's like walking around the mountain. Each time you walk around that mountain, you're moving further up at that mountain. You're still having tests. You're still having initiations through experiences and life situations, but we're evolving through the process. And it's at another level in which that experience is coming to guide us, to heal us, to help us, to protect us, to help us understand something. So how do you recognize a genuine soul invitation rather than a passing impulse, an escape fantasy, or the personality's desire for recognition? The first sign is that it keeps returning quietly. It may disappear beneath daily noise, but when you become still, it returns and asks for honest attention. The second sign is that it carries more peace than pressure. You may still feel fear, but beneath the fear, there's often a sense of righteousness, relief, or inner recognition. Pressure says, do this now, or you will lose your worth or your chance. Peace says, this deserves a truthful response. The third sign is that it stretches the personality without violating your values. A soul invitation may ask you to tolerate uncertainty, disappointment in someone, become a beginner, or change how you use your time. But divine direction does not require dishonesty, cruelty, recklessness, or betrayal of your integrity. The fourth sign is that it is connecting your soul growth rather than ego validation. Ask yourself, what quality is this inviting me to develop? Is it trust, courage, patience, compassion, self-respect, humility, forgiveness, or truth? The ego persona, the personality, asks, how will this make me look? The soul asks, how will this help me grow in consciousness? The fifth sign is that it begins with one loving, truthful, responsible step. The ego persona often imagines a giant leap because that gives it a reason to say no. The soul usually asks for something smaller. Gather information, make the call, speak one honest sentence, attend one meeting, or ask for support. Your soul is not always asking for a grand gesture. More often, it is asking for sincere participation. It is asking for your attention. It is asking for you to be aware of your intuition and the promptings, which is some of the language of the soul. Here's a practice I thought that you want to try in the upcoming week. Instead of asking, what am I supposed to do with the rest of my life? Ask, what is the next loving, truthful, responsible step I already know to take? Write down the invitation that keeps returning. Then ask, is this my personality seeking escape or recognition, or is this my soul inviting growth? And then you can be able to ask, what quality of the Christ within me is trying to become more active through me? Is it truth, trust, courage, compassion, kindness, forgiveness? Is it receptivity or wise action? Then notice what the personality fears will happen. Does it fear rejection, conflict, embarrassment, failure, loss of control, loss of identity, loss of status? Do not shame that fear. Thank the personality. Thank your ego person for trying to protect you. Then remind it that protection is not its only purpose. Its higher role, your soul's role, is to become an instrument through which the soul can express the qualities of the Christ, the qualities of the I Am Presence, the qualities of the Creator in daily life. Finally, identify one step that is small enough to be responsible, but real enough to create movement. The answer may be yes, it may be no, it may be not yet, but a conscious not yet has a reason, a plan, and a point at which you will reconsider. Fear-based delay simply keeps changing the date. Before we close, let's hold up a mirror together. Where might your personality, your ego persona, be trying to preserve an identity your soul has begun to outgrow? What quiet invitation keeps returning when you become still, quiet, at peace with yourself, listening? What quality of the Christ within may be seeking fuller expression through life's adventures, through your experiences on a day-to-day basis? Are you truly preparing, or has preparation become a spiritually respectable place to hide? What would change if you stopped asking for certainty and asked instead for enough light to take one faithful step? Do not force an impressive answer. Listen for the honest one. Your next yes may not change your whole life this week. It may simply change your relationship with your own divine awareness. Carry this with you. The personality, the ego persona, was never meant to be destroyed. And the soul was never meant to be silent. Your growth comes as the personality learns to cooperate with the Christ within and becomes an instrument of the I Am Presence, the Christ self, your soul, in the adventures of your life. Perhaps the life you are meant to live is not waiting for you to become someone different. Perhaps it is waiting for the person you have become to say yes to the next faithful step. Something to think about. Bye for now. And you can find my Mastering Life's Adventures podcast on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or you can go to .com or at drdrjudithmla.com. Please share this episode with a woman who may be waiting for complete certainty before honoring what she already knows.
Thank you for joining me for this episode on Mastering Life's Adventures, being your best self through soul evolution. If you have enjoyed what you've heard today, I would be delighted if you would share this episode with others, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe to my Mastering Life's Adventures podcast. Look forward to your joining the next episode. Please leave any comments or suggestions you might have below. Bye for now.